we have a state, and this is interesting, a state like Pennsylvania where the Quakers were always weird. Okay? Quakers didn't believe in war, they didn't believe in this, they believed in helping people with each other. They didn't believe in having a head of the church, they believed that every man had God inside of him. Okay? They were misfits. And when they went to Pennsylvania, they actually worked with the Native Americans and bought the land and treated them fairly and treated them like brothers. And you know what happened to the Quakers? They were starting to lynch the Quakers and kill the Quakers, not the Native Americans, the other colonies. Okay? Because they're saying, like they say, why would you do anything like be fair to people? You don't do that. You just take it. And that's what we do. That's why we have an army and a navy. Okay? Now, what happens is that we have to teach people, okay? Oh, let me see if there's something I missed here. I got it on my phone. The one thing that you should pick up is that one of the things that we have is notice that in our structure of government, that we have a lower voter turnout than other structures of government. Our plurality system gives us less choice. As a consequence, we don't have as many people voting as those systems that use proportional representation systems. Okay? Now, I think this shows up. Okay. Now, notice, like when we talk about the political culture now, okay, and it says like any social institutions, politics features culturally specific norms and practices, okay? So the first thing they say is we've got to socialize the American public in politics, okay? So political socialization teaches us basic norms and expectations about political life and attitudes toward involvement in politics. Okay? Now what do? We spend our time teaching people the importance of voting. Okay? We spend a lot of time teaching people the importance of voting. Okay? Now bear in mind that for most of our history, the vast majority of the citizens were denied the right to vote. Mm-hmm. Okay? Notice that when we started our voting from the outset, the minute we started being enlightened, we decided that men were endowed with inalienable rights and all this stuff, we denied the vast majority of the people the right to vote. What we did. The only people that could vote were basically the wealthy people, okay, were basically the white males, and were basically property owners. Those were almost all criteria for voting. And remember that voting was not a national thing, voting is a state thing. And in every state draws up the qualifications of their voters. Okay? And so every state was controlled by the wealthy. States again. All of our states have always been controlled by the wealthy from as they say, ab initio, from the get-go. From the beginning, it was controlled by the wealthy people. You look at your Congress people, they were already class-oriented. But they didn't see it as class. They saw it as a natural order of things. When they said that certain people couldn't vote, that was just natural for them. When they said women don't vote, that wasn't a thought that they said they're discriminating against somebody. That was the prevailing thinking of that day. Okay? Now, and it was acceptable thinking. Okay? You got it? All right. Now, Now the same thing goes on, because now we're talking about maybe expanding. You can see that what went on over time. And let me go back to the other part of it is, though even when we talked about who votes, notice that they did not believe that the people who voted were bright enough to vote. It was almost like too much democracy is for the birds. Okay? We don't mind democracy, but let's not overdo it. Let's not just talk about majority rule. That is why we have things like the electoral college come into play. Because they're much brighter than the average person is. Okay? They understand politics better than the average person, and they will do what's right. And you'll see from the very beginning, the president and vice president, when they got the problems, they went into the House of Representatives, and they chose the president. Okay? That was the option. Okay? Now what happens is that we want to talk about public opinion and what we call the spiral of silence. Okay? The spiral of silence is a theory that explains how people keep quiet about controversial issues when they think their opinions are not widely clear in order to avoid social isolation. Now, do you believe that? Do you believe that there's something that you would not talk about because you think it's that the people ostracize you if you talk about it? Yes.
You mean like a collective mentality?
When you say collective mentality,
Like in certain rural parts of the world where religion is dominant, they have certain issues that they keep.
you're right there when you isolate it that way. But we're talking about basically in almost all spheres of life. And let me show you what's the conspiracy of silence. I'm a black person and I'm a staunch Republican. Are you ever going to know it? Never. Why? Because all of you folks are liberal Democrats. So I can't tell you that Obama's full of it. Okay? You with me? As a consequence, I keep my opinion to myself. And I listen to you stupid people ramble on about how great Obama is. Okay? But I don't believe that. I just have better sense than to tell you I don't believe it. That's the conspiracy of silence. You have silenced me. Because I'm not going to convince you that you should have voted for Romney. Okay? I can't convince you of that. And this happens in everything. Okay? Look at our troops. Do you think anybody's going to sit down and say, look, what is all this praise we do for our servicemen? They're nothing but lackeys. Do you think anybody's going to say that? No. Why? Because we know that if you say anything bad about a serviceman today, they're probably going to kick you down the street. Not the servicemen, your friends. Why? Because we go to every football game and they march out the servicemen. Okay? They bring out the flag and they march all around the field and everybody's cheering. What if you say this is foolishness? Okay? At the end of the 7th inning, we start praising the nation. 7th inning of all the ball games. Okay? At halftime, we have to have salute to so-and-so and so-and-so. And the president gets along and he walks around and he says everything to all the servicemen that are there. Who's going to say anything bad about the servicemen? Even if you say, look, there's no reason for us to be over here fighting that war. There's no reason for us to be doing so-and-so and so-and-so. If you say that no, we should not be over here, we should have been there in the first place, and nothing has changed, okay? Why won't you say? Because you got better sense. Okay? Even if you believe. And that's what a conspiracy of silence does. Okay? Or the spiral of silence. It makes you not want to voice your opinion because there's too much. And here's the other thing. They make you feel as though the consensus of the thought is what you're thinking. or what the other people are saying. Okay? When you look at the newspaper, they put all the names, all the servicemen here, and they say this person was honored and blah, 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 blah. We do all of those things. Okay? Now, that's just in there, but we do it in everything. Okay? You know that if somebody's on a football team or a baseball team or whatever, you don't talk about the best player on the team, even though it's a lousy person. Okay? So this is essentially what they're saying. Okay? And you should notice that what happens is that when this happens, discussions get quelched or squashed. We no longer are going to talk about why we have troops someplace else, okay? Because that's no longer public discussion. What we know is that these people over here are giving their lives for the benefit of our way of life, whatever that is, okay? So a real legitimate discussion about whether we should be here in the first place won't take place because it's squashed from the get-go.
But isn't it the taxpayers' money that's funding that?
And the point is what?
It's the people's money that's funding for troops to be where they are.
Well, what's your point?
No, I'm asking a question. You say that it's a private matter, but
I didn't say it was a private matter.
Is it our money?
It is our money that is doing it. But notice it's the government saying how they're going to spend your money. Okay? And notice that means that you don't have a say on how to spend it. Whereas like once upon a time, I think back in the 70s when we were fighting in Vietnam, the people got upset and said, what are we doing over in Vietnam? And then you saw all of the people started jumping up and down about get us out of this war. We had no business being over there in the first place. Okay? And so that happens. Now you don't get any of that. Even if the people feel like we should not be over in Afghanistan, nobody's going to say it. It's still your tax money. Bear in mind that the government, one of the things that politics does is it decides what public policy is and how we do to exercise it. And so it's only when you decide, you want to say something?
Doesn't that go against our freedom of speech and
what else is good? But understand, okay, because see, when you talk about things like freedom of speech, okay, it goes against it when the people in power want you to feel as though freedom of speech is the issue. When they want to divert your attention to something else, okay? One of the reasons why we should not have medical care is because it interferes with your right to choose. Right? And somehow people buy that. You buy it. Yes, it's interfering with my right to choose. It's the same argument they made when Social Security was coming up. Why should people be forced to put money into Social Security? They have a right to choose whether they want to spend their money or not before the government takes the money. You follow me? And what happens is that the courts go along with it. You'd be surprised that when you go back and look at how much fighting Roosevelt had to do to get policies across, because they're socialist policies. These are socialist bending policies. Okay? And he had to threaten to change the court before they got around to it, because they would get a 5-4 decision, always knocking down all the programs. You see? So, but the opposition always finds a way. The thing is that when you give one thing in the air, the thing is the other side has to find a countervailing situation. Remember, our society stays like in balance. Now remember that one of the things that your structural functionalists say is that the society is in balance. And when you start doing things like putting in things like Social Security, you're pushing it out of balance. Okay? Because the system was operating fine until you come up with this nonsense. And so now you've got to find something else to balance it. Okay? They did the same thing with Medicaid. until the medical society decided how they could make all this money, okay? And once they decided, well, yes, you know, this might be so-so, but all of a sudden we make them big bucks. And that's what happens. So once you start balancing that way,